What's up, everyone? This is Brockettology Breakdown. I'm your host, Darius Brockett, and we finally have college football back again. Specifically, the playoffs start this weekend. Friday, we'll kick it off, and then we have a great slate of games on Saturday. So, why are we here? It's time to review some of these playoff matchups, and I'm not going to do it by myself. Alongside me is a good friend of mine. You guys seen him before, Anthony McBarnette. Welcome to Brockettology Breakdowns.
Yeah, appreciate you having me, man. I'm excited to talk with you. Always have a great time talking with you.
One thing that we've definitely said we were going to do when we got here was talk X's and O's, and now we are here. Out of all these matchups, and for those who need to know what's going on, these are some good games. I don't care what no one says. Maybe one game's not good. One game's not good. These are great games. We got Tulane at Ole Miss on Saturday. We got James Madison at Oregon on Saturday. We got Miami and Texas A&M on Saturday. And what's kicking it all off on Friday is Alabama and Oklahoma. So all these games, three out of the four, I will guarantee can be some good games here.
What do you mean by that? Because we got into this already. Like, let's pull the curtain back. We were in the hallway, and
So you want to jump straight into this?
yeah, like we
Okay.
had a discussion about one of the games. I can mention it, or if you want to mention
No,
it,
no,
you
no.
want
You since you want to throw me under the bus,
we
it's
were
all yours.
talking about
What?
we were
What?
talking about we were talking about Ole Miss and Tulane. So I want
Yeah.
to get your definition of what's a good game. What do you think a good game is going to be?
Okay.
And your definition.
So at the time of recording this, Ole Miss
Mhm.
is favored by 17 and a half.
Mhm.
I do think it could be a closer game than that. For what
Okay.
everyone who's seen in the past, this can be a way closer game. Again, they played
Yeah.
earlier in week 4. It was 45 to 10. That score, very lopsided. I very much understand that. I will not take anything away from that previous game. But I've always said it's easier to play a team once you have enough film on them and you've seen their weaknesses show and they're more prevalent versus when everyone's still filling each other out and you're still just running your basic foundational principle offenses and defenses. Do I think this is a runaway game? Do I think this can be a blowout game? No, I do think I said it. It can be a way closer game, and there's a lot of drama involved in this, and it makes me wonder where's everybody's head at once we get to Saturday. You
Mhm.
know,
Yeah. Yeah, I think that it's going to be interesting. I think that I'm with you. This is definitely going to be a different game. We were talking about this on SEC this morning over on Sirius XM. That was Trinidad Chandler's second game starting.
second game starting.
And yeah, so I think that, Tulane definitely didn't know a lot about that offense under Trinidad Chandler. And then also, I think that they were figuring out themselves because it's still early in the season, just before the halfway point.
Jake
Um,
Retzloff just got there. Remember, he
yeah,
transferred from BYU to Tulane in that spring portal window, so he got
yeah,
there literally right around that summer.
yeah. So they're still trying to figure out who they are. I definitely think that um, this game will start off more competitive than it did in Ole Miss. But ultimately, I just think Ole Miss has too much firepower. I think they have the guys in the trenches specifically to just kind of
One
take
thousand
over this
percent.
game. 17 is an interesting line. I think that it depends on when Ole Miss pulls away. I don't think it's a matter of if, I think it's when. I think if Tulane can keep that under 17 into the half, I think it has a chance of staying at 17. But if they, can't possess the ball early in this game and they give Trinidad Chambliss and this Ole Miss offense a chance to get settled in, a chance to, get the ball to their playmakers and make plays, I think that Ole Miss will run away and get past that 17 and a half. But ultimately, if we're arguing for a 17 and a half point game, I think, in my opinion,
That's
that's
a
not a
sign.
game.
That's a bad
Yeah,
sign.
but I will say, as a football fan, I'm still excited to see this matchup because, having a chance to hear John Summerall talk and just how he's poured himself into this Tulane program and kind of and constantly showed up, not just coach speak, but constantly showed up for this Tulane program, making sure people committed to that school after he took the Florida job. just recently donating $100,000 to this program at Tulane. Just how he's going about it. I'm excited to see how he preps this team and see what's going to come to the SEC next year with John Summerall.
Yeah, 1000%. Here's why I think I have a lot more confidence in this. And it is the Ole Miss Lane Kiffin debacle and how it went down. I know you kind of had 3 weeks removed from it all, but it's still a very fresh wound. Pete Golding
Yeah.
has been nothing but fantastic stepping into this head coaching role for
Hmm.
Ole Miss, but Keith Carter as the athletic director, he's handled everything well. But it goes down to Charlie Weiss and the offense. That will be the biggest question that I have because again, he's also going to be going to LSU once this
Hmm.
whole thing is wrapped up with. So it's
Yeah.
like how much of his time is spent with those guys now on a week in, week out basis of understanding what do they want to run, what do they want to call. So that's where I think it hinges a lot on. I do believe in Trinidad Chambliss, Keywan Lacey. That 1-2 punch in that backfield is going to be fantastic. Obviously, Trinidad coming on early in the year, but like I'll say late in the year.
Hmm.
Late in terms of as a starting quarterback metric of starting week 3, week 4, and
Yeah.
then hitting the
Week
road
three.
hard
Yeah.
and having
Well,
to
week
go
four.
off
I'm
the
sorry.
and having to come off the rhythm from being a transfer that came in the summer, just like Jake Retzloff. Both of these programs here have done a very good job of understanding. Tulane, very much well deserved. I also think we don't give enough credit to the Tulane offense
Hmm.
because of everything else that is around it. The question will come down to, for me, I think the question will come down to what defense shows up for Ole Miss. And I don't mean that from a size standpoint. I mean, it's going to be the defense that gave up, 7 straight touchdowns against Georgia, or is it going to be a defense that showed up how when they played against Tulane earlier, where they were just on everything? Jake Retzloff looked very uncomfortable, but as time goes on, it's easier to get comfortable with the offense and mature. So that's how I look at this game overall. Again, if we had to make a pick today on this Wednesday,
Hmm.
I will sit here and go, give me Ole Miss. I don't know if I'll take the points because that seems a little too rich for my blood. And I think everybody's going to go off of revisionist history of it of like, well, 44-10 or 45-10. That's the last time we saw these two teams. We could
Hmm.
just expect that outcome again. And I think that's not where I want to go with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, I'm pulling up the box score from the first game right now, but yeah, like I said, I just think it's definitely going to be a different game because, like you said, um, Jake Retzloff, he was still getting used to this offense. There's going to be more film on Trinidad Chambliss in that Ole Miss offense. And, I think that Tulane is just going to throw that whole game plan out of the window and, try something new. And from
Yeah.
hearing people talk about the game, and there's a lot that they can try differently. Um,
This is when your best ball comes out.
yeah, I mean, Jake Reslov he did not throw the ball well at all in this game. I'm looking at now.
He was under
Um,
duress a lot in that game. A lot of
yeah,
four-man pressures. Every so often, Ole Miss came with like a 5-man. The front four was fantastic for Ole Miss. There was no question about that.
yeah, and they ran the ball decently. Tulane did. So, you know, again, it's going to be about still possessing that ball, still possessing the rock, running the ball just as well, if not better than they did, and then to your point, I think Jake Reslov can definitely warm up and definitely has warmed up and gotten used to this offense and can make a play or two based off how that running game is moving to kind of keep drives alive, keep third converting on third downs and things of that sort. So we'll see. But again, we're debating under the 17 and a half. I still think Ole Miss has enough firepower to easily cover that
Oh yeah.
spread. So yeah, we'll
Again,
see. We'll
again,
see.
I'm glad we at least got this game out the way. I still believe in the little guy here. And I think
Hmm.
this out of the two G5 games playing against Power Four, Tulane in my eyes has the best opportunity to get an upset. Tulane
Yeah.
has the best chance out like the James Madison Oregon game. That spread is vastly different. It's 21. And over under is at 47.5, and Dante Moore,
Yeah,
if
it,
Oregon has their team healthy, they can clearly knock that off. Sadiq Bey, DeCorian Moore, they can easily get past that.
yeah. I think Dante Moore this may be a hot take. I think he's the best quarterback in the country. I really
Is
am
he the
in
best
love
quarterback
with.
in this playoff?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, in the country, I think
Explain.
he's. Yeah, just from the Penn State game. Now, again, I will put this little disclaimer at the bottom of the screen or something when we post this, but Oregon hasn't played anybody outside of Indiana, and he didn't look like his usual self in Indiana. But in every other game, specifically Penn State, you can say what you want about Penn State. They were able to get pressure on him. USC was able to get pressure on him at points, and he just looks so calm and collected within the pocket. His movements are so fluid, and he could be running, escaping pressure, but he never looks like he's under duress. He's not really doing highlight and spinning out of tackles and juking people downfield, but his
He's
movement
very
is very
composed.
very composed and it's very fluid. It's going to be a step this way, it's going to be a step that way, and when he takes off, it's going to be quick and it's going to be a decisive takeoff. It's not going to be playing around, and his eyes consistently stay downfield. I really like what I've seen from Dante Moore. Now, again, Oregon really hasn't had the schedule of other teams within this playoff, so we'll see how he
Iowa,
looks. But yeah, Iowa's is also
that
a
was a
good
great
game.
game. He performed very
Yeah,
well in Iowa.
yeah, and say what you want about Iowa. Look at Iowa's the top competition Iowa played this year. They were competitive in multiple games. So yeah, I'm excited to see him take the field against James Madison as no disrespect to James Madison and their players, but I think that's a good opportunity to get, tuned up, to get warmed up, and then, head to that second round matchup with some against Texas Tech, who that's the real deal on defense. Um, have some
1,000%.
have some momentum heading into that game to, perform well and use that momentum to propel himself to the next level.
Okay. So we got two games down. Out of the next two, which one do you want to touch on first? Which one do you believe is the most interesting matchup out of these two? And then we can just dive in from there on out.
Let's touch on the Alabama Oklahoma one. I think that kicking this off, I think that's an interesting matchup, and I think hearing people talk,
Do you know
that's
Oklahoma closed on Fridays? Like they're closing down the campus. There's no school. It's a party going to be down there in Norman, Oklahoma. Where you look a little perturbed by that. What
it
you
just
don't
means more, man. It just means more.
I don't want to hear that. They were in the Big 12 not too long ago and they were in the
I
playoffs.
know, I know, I
And it
know.
was in a four-team era, so I don't want to hear that.
Yeah, but they came to the SEC. They had to up their ante.
That's true. So Friday night, this kicks
Mm-hmm.
everything off.
Mm-hmm.
As I said earlier, they're closing down the campus.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure jobs will be closed. This is going to be a party. This is
Yeah.
another rematch game here. Uh, Before we dive into it, do you wish they would have reseeded some of these so we could have gotten so we wouldn't have gotten repetitive matchups? Or are you fine with how it all shook out?
Yeah, I'm fine with how it shook out. I'm not really tripping off a competitive match or repetitive matchups. Yeah,
Okay.
I think it adds a little something to it. Like I think I like in the NFL when teams. I know it's different. It's more teams in college football, so it's more opportunity to play
Yeah.
different teams. But specifically within the SEC too, like I like the opportunity to see to see teams play for a second time. Um, well, as I said, the SEC, but just in conferences in general, I like seeing teams play for a second time. Because again, going back to the first time we talked this year, just data points, you, Georgia lost to Alabama in their first matchup and then came back and dog walked them. I think that's a
Yeah.
big part of football is making an adjustments, going back and critiquing yourself. And when we're talking about, the best teams in the country, what's a better way to prove yourself than getting a rematch against a team that you may have lost to the first time, or going out and beating the team that you beat the first time. So I'm not really too
No, that's
perturbed, as you
fair.
like to say, about
No,
rematches.
that's fair. This game, again, Alabama, let's just call this game what it is. It has been Kalen DeBoer's kryptonite. Last year,
Hmm.
you had a chance to be in the playoffs. Oklahoma pretty much knocks your playoff chances out. You have
Yeah,
your rematch the following year, and it ends in a close game. Don't get me wrong. It was 23, what? 23-21. Let me go look at my
yeah,
notes. 23
yeah.
21. But
Hmm.
it really was more on a lopsided end of a great Oklahoma defense. That is by far one of the best defenses in the country.
Yeah, that guy Brent
What?
Venables really knows how to coach, huh?
Hey, shout out to Coach Venables.
Yeah.
Where do you think this game comes down to? What is the key metric for this game?
I think that, newsflash, Alabama needs to run the ball. It's
Jan
like,
Miller may be playing.
yeah, it seems like he's tracking the play, so that would be helpful. But even with Jam Miller, I mean, they struggle. So can they
80
run the?
yards last time they played. And then
Hmm.
obviously we saw in the SEC championship, -3.
Yeah, but two, they had two. Jam Miller and somebody else was out in the SEC championship. I can't remember who. So again, the negative yards as an Alabama program is still embarrassing, but I guess I'm
It's
cutting them
not
some
the
slack.
Alabama we are accustomed to seeing.
Yeah, but I think that it's important to note too, Oklahoma's offense didn't really look. You talked about it. It was their defense that kept them. Oklahoma had three turnovers in that, or forced three turnovers in that game, and
Yeah.
was still
Or
able, and it's
Mason
still,
Thomas,
yeah, and
dog.
still, yeah, he's a dog, and he didn't even play in that game. That's another, you know, that's another large key for Oklahoma coming in this game. But yeah, Oklahoma had forced three turnovers in that game and only won by 2 points. So I think for both teams, their offenses is what we're going to be leaning on here for them to get the win. I don't know if Alabama is going to have three turnovers again. So John Mateer in Oklahoma, can you get back to that early Oklahoma, that early September Oklahoma offense that looked like it could move the
The
ball at
Oklahoma
will?
we thought would beat Texas in that Red River game.
Yeah, the Oklahoma that had before John Mateer's injury, that had everybody looking at John Mateer as a possible Heisman candidate. Can they get back to that early Oklahoma team? And then Alabama, can you, first of all, protect Ty Simpson? Because even without not having a run game, I think if you can protect Ty Simpson, he has ability to get the ball to, a deep pocket of playmakers at the wide receiver position and running backs out the backfield. So controlling the line of scrimmage for Alabama, specifically on the offensive end, protecting Ty Simpson and being able to run the ball somewhat. And then Oklahoma, can you start to rely on your offense after struggling late in the year?
Yeah. Last time they played, and again, only using it as a frame of reference,
Mhm.
what Alabama did best was catch Oklahoma off guard with like many explosive plays. There weren't
Mhm.
like nothing crazy, but they would no huddle line up real quick while Oklahoma's still looking for their play call. Ty Simpson and them already running the ball, already getting the ball out their hands, tight ends downfield. It gets them a 35-yard completion. That's what
Mhm.
they were good in. But also, we didn't hear a lot of Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard in that game. That I believe will be the key is how fast can Alabama get to their playmakers. And if they can do that early and build confidence and rapport with those guys, that could create a massive problem for Oklahoma. And again, great defense. Never once taken it away. Oklahoma's depth on defense, I think, is also the key. Their ability to rotate a lot of guys. If they can mix and match a lot of those looks, they can do a lot of devious things to that Alabama front five because you can bring guys from inside pressure, outside pressure. You can disguise your coverages. I think that is where Oklahoma is at their most dangerous. And you said it on their own. The offense themselves they're both shaky offenses.
Mhm.
Which quarterback do you think needs to show up the most in this game? What quarterback needs to produce?
Mhm. That's difficult. That's difficult. I think that they both need to. I think that Ty Simpson is, well, I'm sorry, John Mateer is under more pressure, just because Ty Simpson has more explosiveness on the outside. You named some of them with Jeremy Bernard, Isaiah Thornton, and then Ryan Williams. Like Isaiah Horton, I'm sorry, and Ryan Williams. Like these are all just explosive and big playmakers, and even their tight end, Alabama's tight end. Another guy you can throw into the mix where these guys can get the ball and make plays. And if you looked at that first game, if you take away, if I showed you the film and you took away Alabama's interceptions, you would look at that game and say
You
Alabama's
would
the
think
better
Alabama
team
was the
here.
better team. Like
Yeah,
they out
100%.
they outrushed them. Granted, it was
Mm-hmm.
only by 4 yards.
Mm-hmm.
They had John Mateer looked way he did not John Mateer. Ty Simpson looked way more composed as a quarterback. Again, the
Mm-hmm.
numbers will lie if you didn't watch the entire game. But if you just look at that alone, like you said, it'll look like Alabama should have won that game by a landslide or at least by a touchdown.
Yeah. And this is credit to Oklahoma's defense. I don't want to keep talking about like this is like they forced those turnovers. They did things to Ty Simpson to confuse him. Again, that guy Brent Venables is a hell of a coach. Um, but I just don't know watching film and then going through the rest of the season if Alabama's going to make those same mistakes, especially on that scale. Maybe you can get one, possibly two, but three again, and the field position in which they gave it to them, like these were short fields, these were big returns,
Yeah.
a pick six that Oklahoma takes. I just don't know if it's going to happen to that scale for Alabama. So John Mateer, and I think a large part of it does have to do with his broken thumb that he had. Can you get back to who you were before that broken thumb? Can you get
Okay.
that offense back to perform in that way? So I would add, to answer your question, I would lean towards John Mateer needing to have a bigger game. But I think both of these quarterbacks need to step up in order for their team to win.
I'm of the other mind. I think it's more on
Hmm.
Ty Simpson who needs to have a bigger game. I
Yeah.
believe the formula for Oklahoma is great defense,
Hmm.
win the field position battle, and you have a kicker that can boom the ball, who's the Lou Groza Award winner, can boom
That's a
it from
great
50
point.
yards. So if you are in
Yeah.
good field positioning throughout the game and your defense is controlling that tempo and that pace, I think John Mateer can relax just a tad. Isaiah Satania at the receiving position is a freaking beast. It works out for him. Uh, but Alabama, it does seem like with Jan Miller trending in the upward direction to play, I know that will change a lot of things. Same thing for R. Mason Thomas on Oklahoma's defensive end. I feel like Ty Simpson is the de facto offense, and it's again we it's hard not to say that when we're just talking about quarterbacks. They're the guys who touch the ball all the time, but in Florida State game when they lost, you could see how uncomfortable he was against that game. And then against Georgia, the first go around, we saw how comfortable he was. And those were two night and day different quarterbacks. And we saw
Yeah.
the offense just being a lot more smoother of a rhythm when
Hmm.
Ty Simpson knows where he wants to go with the ball. He knows where he wants, like when his eyes and his feet are connected,
Yeah.
he can drive that ball across the middle of the field. And I
Yeah.
think the pressure falls on him slightly more. Again, both are in high pressure situations. I will not
Hmm.
take that away from either quarterback. I just think given the formula for Oklahoma to win games that we've seen in their stretch over the season, it has come down to, hey, we have a good defense. Again, John, we love you. You're good. We want more from you. But if push comes to shove, we have a defense that can get us a quick three and out. We have a kicker that can easily put the ball in the goalpost. All we have to do is get past the 50. And if we're if we're in plus territory, we're going to be okay versus Alabama. I don't know if field goals will be what saves them because if their offense can't match score for score, it'll be a lot more pressure packed in that game.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think to your point, you talk about how Simpson looked in that Florida State game and how much he improved since that point. It's like he kind of took a step back after that Oklahoma game. The final three games of the season, including the Georgia um, conference championship game, he just hasn't looked like the Ty Simpson that We talked about John Mateer being the Heisman winner earlier in the season before the injury. Ty Simpson kind of entered that
Same conversation.
conversation, yeah, post Florida State. And ever since Oklahoma, it seems like he worked his way out of that conversation. So, and like, again, to your point, when he came out of that Florida State game, you saw him kind of like me talking about with Dante Moore playing cleaner as a quarterback, taking 3 steps, getting the ball out. If he needed to extend the play, it was clean. He knew where the pressure was coming from. He can step up, he can move and kind of anticipate and make throws based on what he knew was going on around him. That Oklahoma game, it seemed like he was certain points, it seemed like he was just, especially in that first half, he did not know where pressure was coming from. He was confused by a few coverages, throwing the ball to defenders that were dropping back in coverage. He looked confused, specifically in that first half. Now, again, we talked about you take those 3 interceptions away. Um, you think Alabama was the more powerful, the better team, and
Yeah.
my point, it was, but
Eli Bowen,
Oklahoma.
87-yard pick six, and then two fumbles that game.
Yeah, yeah. So you looked at Ty Simpson and you were saying that, oh, you can look at him and see like, oh, he doesn't look like himself in this game, and part of that was due to pressure and the good defense that Burt Venables did, and I don't. That has carried on in Auburn and then in Georgia. So yeah, to your point, I'm still going to edge with or lean towards John Mateer, but there's definitely a strong argument for Ty Simpson, who can he understand what's going on in those moments when he may be thrown off or he may feel pressure. Can he quickly identify what's going on and get back on pace and get back in rhythm as a quarterback?
Oklahoma is the only underdog in this first round, and they are 1.5. Alabama is the favorite going into this. Interesting nugget that I was looking up as you were talking. Oklahoma last two games they played scored 17 points both, limiting opposing teams either 6 points or three. Alabama in their last two games they scored 27 against Auburn, only scored 7 against Georgia. Both times, both teams put up 20 plus points against Alabama. So offensively, both teams aren't the strongest, but defensively, I Oklahoma should be slightly better. But again,
Mm-hmm.
I always say this behind closed doors. I say it every time. Any given Saturday, anything can change. So you never know. If
You
you had
think
to make,
Oklahoma? You think Oklahoma is better than Alabama offensively?
I don't know if they're better.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're better. What I
Mm-hmm.
do think is that one team has a defense that is so good
Mm-hmm.
that it doesn't require them to be better. And in my eyes, this isn't like, oh, me comparing them, but I'm just thinking of the rule of thumb of all the great defenses of like a 2000 Baltimore Ravens, Legion of Boom, the recent Philadelphia Eagles defense. They're like, hey, dude, if we can limit, all you have to do is go put up 10 points.
Mm-hmm.
We can hold them to 3 and we'll be fine. Not again, not saying this is where I'm comparing those defenses to, but having one of the best defenses in the country, a top 10 defense in the country, that kind of has been their formula for like the last 4 or 5 games here. And Alabama, unfortunately, when Ryan Williams isn't having his usual classic night,
Mm-hmm.
it does seem to be a little shaky. Also, Jan Miller not being there, the key to that offense has to be running the ball, getting your best guys open. That is where if it makes the difference. I could see Oklahoma winning this game because of their defense, but also I would put the crowd involved. I would always say like a home field game changes a lot.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be crazy down there. Yeah,
But again, any given Saturday.
yeah. You're taking Oklahoma?
Yes. Right
Mm-hmm.
now, yes. And it's again, defense wins championships. That's kind of been a formula for almost every college football playoff team we've seen in the
Mm-hmm.
past couple of years. They've always had a really good defense. or a freakishly great one. Ohio State last year, yeah, their offense was phenomenal, but defenses were holding teams to no less than what, 10 points, maybe 21 on a good day. So give me Oklahoma, and I could rock out with that and at least be confident with that pick. But now on to what I think most people think is the best game of the night, the most interesting one because it's probably the ultimate 50-50 toss up. College Station, night game. I mean, not night game. 11 what their time kick?
11 Central, yeah.
11 Central, so 12 Eastern
Hmm.
for us.
Yeah.
How do you think this game fares out given that we've looked at two teams here? One team who looked really good in their final games in Miami and Texas A&M kind of looking human, given that they lost to Texas and that first half against South Carolina. How how do you think this game shakes out, at least in the beginning, when you talk about these two in this matchup?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that this is another interesting. I think Texas A&M is eerily similar to Oregon, who I mentioned earlier, when it comes to schedule. Like they just haven't had, they had played Notre Dame. I think that's a big win for them.
Both teams
But
play Notre
outside of,
Dame.
yeah, both teams played Notre Dame in one close matchup. But outside of that, I really haven't seen too much of Texas A&M. They went down against South Carolina in the first half. It was a 28-3 in that first half against South
Yeah,
Carolina, and then
it
they
was
came
definitely
back
a
and won.
blowout.
Yeah, there have been some points for Texas A&M where it's kind of like, okay, specifically from Marcel Reed, who, he's had a spectacular season. I don't want to take anything away from him, but there have been some points where it feels like he hasn't been playing up to that potential to be in the conversation as like a Ty Simpson or a Dante Moore or Fernando Mendoza when we talk about like NFL draft, blue chip kind of quarterback who can take over a game, which Marcel Reed can do, not only with his arm, but also with his legs. Um, but the thing that gets me excited for this matchup is the two edge rushers and Ruben Bain and Cassius Howe. I think that these two are
Yeah.
the heavyweight fight in the ticket, and I think they're also representative of both of those units kind of taking over the game. And then to the flip side, you talked about a little bit about Marcel Reed, Carson Beck, also probably Marcel Reed to the 10th power, and which Carson Beck is going to show up, the guy who can make every throw in the field and go down and get you a game winning drive, or the guy who it's literally like, all right, we got to get the ball out of this guy's hand and run the ball because he's throwing 4 or 5 interceptions. I'm exaggerating, but it feels like he can throw that many in
No,
a game.
go for it.
Yeah, so I think that yeah, this one is going to be a heavyweight fight, but these are two teams who are eerily similar and they have power in the trenches. Um, but there's still we've seen two bad losses from Miami, and we've seen points from Texas A&M where it's like, are they really the top three, top four team? So we'll see. And I think that this is a perfect barometer of one of these two teams to kind of show who they really are. And maybe it's a neck and neck fight all the way to the end, but you know, I'm eager to see this.
No, I'm with you. The game, these, like you said, they're probably the most similar out of all these matchups we're getting this weekend because you can literally go bar for bar with anybody. You'll go Marcel Reed, Carson Beck. You'll go Malachi Tony, Casey Concepcion. You can
Hmm.
go Cassius Howe, Ruben Bain. Like you can go down that list. Each place you go, they
Yeah.
have someone. And also, I think in the trenches, both sides mirror each other very well. Mario Cristobal has done a great job of building this team from the inside out, same way that Mike Elko has done with Texas A&M. Here's where I think it differs. It does depend on which quarterbacks we get. In the last 3 games for Marcel Reed, he's thrown 6 interceptions. Last 3 games for Carson Beck, he's only thrown two. Both have
Hmm.
thrown 10 interceptions apiece. It just all depends on where you get. Also, I think it comes down to Le'Veon Moss, who is trending upwards to play for Texas A&M. He's missed a bulk of the season with injuries, but he's by far one of the best playmakers to have the ball in his hand to run downfield for Texas A&M. I know they have Owens Jr. who stepped in, who filled in on a lot of things. He had 5 touchdowns on the year, but Le'Veon Moss, clear cut difference maker for that backfield. Marcel Reed's ability to use his legs a lot more, which I think adds a dynamic to that offense that I don't think Miami's prepared for yet. And that
Hmm.
environment in Kyle Field is very different. Miami hasn't been road tested a lot.
Yeah, I think I'm glad you brought up Le'Veon Moss's name because with Texas A&M and Miami, I think both of them, when they can run the ball well, their offense looks a lot different. Who do you think can kind of use that run game in order to help the quarterback out and kind of propel them to a win, or do you think that they don't really need it? I want to hear your thoughts about
M-
that in particular.
it's an easy answer. Miami needs the run game a lot more because Carson Beck's offensive game isn't built on him using his legs at the level that Marcel Reed's is. Marcel will have a QB draw. He will have an option route. He has
Mhm.
these plays that are designed for him, where Carson does not. Like they'll show up every now and again, but Miami really has kind of opened their bag of tricks a lot more with Malachi Tony being that guy who you give the ball to in the backfield, make something happen. If the run game isn't working going north and south, they'll figure it out that way. Carson
Mhm.
Beck needs that to kind of take the pressure off of him and give him those heavy boxes so he can make those quick throws and make those quick timely plays. Texas A&M, I think, has more explosiveness on their offense, and so they can get away with a we didn't get the right run fit this play, but we can definitely take the top off with it with Casey Concepcion downfield or running a skinny post the very like 2 drives later. So
Mhm.
who needs the run game a lot more? I would definitely say Miami because a lot of their offense is built on running the ball. It's built
Mhm.
on going downhill, punch you in the face. That's what Mario Cristobal is built on, a former offensive lineman, a former offensive line coach. That is what their game is built on. And don't get me wrong, Elko, just the same, another trench guy who's like, we're going to punch you in the face too. But if you said who can be more creative, Texas A&M can kind of
Yeah,
skirt
they have.
past a dry
Yeah,
spell.
yeah. I think that Texas A&M, the way I feel about Dante Moss is how I feel about Texas A&M's offense. But it's just again with Dante Moore, competition with Texas A&M, uh, competition, and then also Marcel Reed. What happens when he struggles and can become a
Yeah,
little bit unreliable? But when he's on, when he's rolling and he's moving, and this offense is at full fledged, good luck.
it's a interesting game when it comes to that because it's always quarterback play, and I hate that it's quarterback play
Mhm.
because I'm not a guy who strategically wants to stay on quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Texas A&M has the 20th ranked offense in the country. Miami has the 28th ranked offense. Both
Mhm.
defenses are ranked within the top 25. Miami at 11, Texas A&M at 19.
Yeah.
So these are very similar teams. Who do you think out of all these playmakers, who do you think needs to make the bigger impact to help their team win?
Oof, that's a great question. I'm gonna go with the running backs. I'm gonna go Le'Veon Moss for Texas A&M, like you pointed out before, with him in the game. Um, that team just looks like a different team, and when they can run the ball, 100%, they're a different team. And the same thing with Miami. If Fletcher Jr. can get the ball in his hands and make some plays, and the other running backs can, you know, get it going, and you know, you talked about offensive linemen with Mario Cristobal. Miami has some great offensive linemen too. So if
Francis Maui
not just the
Noah,
run,
All
yeah,
American.
yeah. Like let's not just talk about the running backs, but like the guys who are blocking for them too. If these guys can push, we talked about Ruben Bain and Cassius Howe. The headliners that are selling these tickets. Um, if these guys can kind of negate what's going on the other side, I think that that's a big impact for both teams. So I'm going to say um, both running backs for both teams need to come up led by the offensive line.
Now, on the flip side of that,
Hmm.
where's their grounds for concerns for either team?
Yeah. Yeah, the only reason I brought up the quarterbacks is because it's like, just don't screw this up, you know?
No,
Like, you
I
got,
get it.
yeah,
You are
you
in a
have
good
some,
position. Do not mess this up.
yeah,
Get the ball in the end zone.
yeah. And I think that that's the biggest thing, like, and not even just throwing interceptions, but making smart plays. A lot is not talked about when it comes to quarterbacks, throwing a ball out of bounds rather than, um, you know, taking a sack 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage, or maybe it's fourth down and you're on your own side of the field. It may be smarter to take a chance and throw a dumb pass for an interception down the field as an arm punt rather than, making an incomplete pass and now the team gets the ball on your side of the field. So for the quarterbacks, I think it's just don't mess this up and kind of have that IQ in certain moments of making the right play, which may not always be making the explosive down the field heroic play.
I think what gets unsaid in this conversation is the trenches. And
Mm-hmm.
I say that in a good way, but I think for Miami, their lack of depth up front on the defensive side is also grounds for concern. Because we
Yeah,
hear about Akeem Mesidor, we hear about Ruben Bain.
they play a
Outside of
lot.
that, yeah,
Yeah,
they don't really rotate a lot of guys in and out. They kind of stick with a front four. They kind of go in and try to get the job done. They don't try to cause a lot of pressure.
mm-hmm.
But I don't think you can do that with a guy like Marcel Reed. Marcel
Mm-hmm.
Reed, the biggest concern during the offseason was how will he look as a thrower. And he came out this year lighting it up on fire. And imagine if he's not under duress and you're only rushing four. I think, and that tempo of that offense, it may not be
Yeah,
freakishly fast, but there's
right.
going to be moments in that second half that back eight, let's just say that back eight, or like all coaches say, the middle eight,
The middle of it, yeah,
that will be very crucial for Miami and how they go forward and they respond. If Akeem Mesidor and Ruben Bain are gassed early, it's
yeah,
not going to help them out in the long run. I think that'll be the key here. That isn't talked about a lot, but I am
mm-hmm.
with you. I think it also comes down to quarterbacks. When you look at this game and then how it can shape out, who does it benefit more for the sake of their program and their future? Like if this game is won, winner of this game has to play Ohio State regardless the following week.
Mm-hmm.
Which coach kind of needs this game to give them that next jump off into the following year?
You asking some great questions. Because I think these
Well, you
programs
know that
are,
is my job.
they're doing a great job. Get this man a raise. Um, No, I think that like both of these teams are in similar situations, and uh, Mike Elko is kind of coming off the heels of Jimbo Fisher and his crazy buyout and kind of him not living up to expectations and taking this team to college football playoff after being on the precipice of it for so many years and coming up short for so many years. And the same for Mario Cristobal coming off the Manny Diaz years of, kind of just not living up, not being terrible, but not living up to the hype. Um, you may hate me for this, but I would say every time I'm thinking I'm going to say something, I'm coming up with a thought in my head to kind of neglect that. They're just very similar situations, but also different because how often will Texas A&M be able to go 11-1 within the SEC? Because I don't
Very
care
fair.
how much the
It's
SEC is a deep conference. It is a difficult conference to play in. Um, the ACC is too with Miami, but I just think that they can do that more consistently. They can out recruit other teams within the ACC. They can hop in the transfer portal and gain more players than other teams in the ACC. Um, yeah, it's hard for me to say any one team in particular, but I'm curious to hear what you have to say.
Oh, I didn't have an answer at all. I think again, these teams are almost like twins. They are
Yeah.
1A, 1B. Like you said,
Mm,
every statement that you'll say on one end can neglect the other. Because even as
mm,
I'm thinking more and more, I pull up my notes and I just look over, I was like, oh, Miami has one of the best red zone offenses.
mm,
And guess who they're playing with one of the worst red zone defenses?
mm,
Texas A&M. So it's like for every tit, there's a tat, and so it's very much on the back end. What's your pick in this game?
mm.
Where
I'm gonna Yeah, I'm gonna say Texas A&M. I just think that you made a great point too earlier about, you know, I think that when it comes to the trenches, we talked about that as being the most important thing within this game. Both teams have excellent trenches. Um, I just think the pace that Texas A&M's offense moves with, that's the way you negate Miami's. That's the only way they've really been able to struggle on defense is keeping them on the field. So if Marcel Reed and this offense can make plays, which I know they can, this is an offense that can easily score 40 points. Um, I just don't know if, like you pointed out, Miami has the depth on the defensive line to kind of negate that offensive firepower that Texas A&M can provide. So I'm gonna go Texas A&M in this one,
nah,
and it's at home.
I,
Like that's
look,
one of the
it's
craziest places to
three and a
play.
half. Texas A&M is favored by 3.5. If I had to pick today, again,
Mhm.
December 17th, I'm also
Don't give a
taking Texas
disclaimer.
A&M.
Don't give a
Yeah.
disclaimer. Stand
No,
in it.
because also there I could wake up tomorrow and immediately go, all right, I can see why Miami wins. Like
Yeah.
my again, out of all these four matchups, I think Miami has the best chance to have an upset out of
Hmm.
these four matchups, but I wouldn't also be when I say best, it's more so I wouldn't be surprised if they won. It wouldn't be like a shocker.
Hmm.
Whereas if Tulane won, that's a whole different thing. Or James Madison won. But I lean towards Texas A&M because of it's at home. It's going to be a loud environment. Miami has been very I mean not turnover, has been a very penalized team when it comes to false starts, it comes to holdings, and in an environment like Kyle Field, that 12th man can get crazy. We've watched it on TV. We've seen these games play out where it looks very easy, but then when fan interaction and those cowbells get the ringing, it can change a lot. Like so, give me Texas A&M today, but if I was to do this again, the day of the game on the 20th, I could also be like Miami. But currently, yes, I will stand in it and go Texas A&M. They can win it. I
Yeah.
do think it comes down to what makes me hesitate and change my mind. One team has a quarterback that's been in these situations while another team hasn't. So, although it's everybody's first time in this environment, there's one quarterback who's been through this before, and his name is Carson Beck. And I know that shouldn't ultimately change anybody's mind, but I do think having that
It does
experience
matter.
can
Yeah.
help in any given situation.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And I think that this is one of those games. I'd be shocked if one of the teams blows each other out in that Alabama Oklahoma game. Like I think this game is going to be a close, but I think it because of these teams' weaknesses, it can also like lean either way in a blowout.
One
Like to your
thousand
point,
percent.
like Carson Beck being able to like rely on his experience in these situations, and then Texas A&M's inability to run the ball at times. Like I think that's a bad matchup that can lead to a blowout for Miami, where you go on the opposite side, A&M's explosive offense, Carson Beck's ability to turn the ball over, as well as their Miami's defensive line ability to get gas. I think that can cause a blowout for Texas A&M. So these are two teams that I think are equally as talented. They have different strengths and weaknesses, but because of the weaknesses of the other team, I think it can easily, be a lopsided victory either way. So it's going to be an exciting game, man, and I'm just ready to start watching it, honestly.
Oh yeah, we are. We're definitely going to be excited. And as we're coming down to the end of this, I
Mhm.
have maybe two more questions max
Yeah,
here.
let's do it.
Uh, this is by far the most interesting playoff bracket we've gotten because I believe, just like almost everybody else, there's not just one clear cut de facto they can win a national championship. Everyone this
Yeah,
year has a case. Last
yeah.
year was kind of like that until we saw Ohio State first game, and we were just like against Tennessee, and we were just like, oh, they're clearly the better team. Like that was, we don't know what happened.
Yeah, it
Lost to
turned
Michigan,
up.
and they were just like, F everybody, get out the way. We have a go. We
Yeah.
have a national championship to go win.
Hmm.
When you look at all 12 teams,
Hmm.
and yes, I mean all 12 to people that are watching or listening, all 12, even the two little guys,
Hmm.
how many teams are national championship contenders here when you look at this playoff?
I think it's a great question. I think that I'm gonna go with teams that we really haven't seen too many weaknesses from. I'm gonna go Ohio State. I'm gonna go Indiana, and I'm gonna go Texas A&M. I think those
Yeah,
are the three
four.
teams. Hmm?
Four teams. Ohio
Oh,
State.
three.
Oh,
Hmm.
three.
Yeah,
Wow, my
three.
math is terrible.
Yeah, I was about to say like, dang, am I tripping? No, those are the three teams where I mean, you can nitpick like we can say Ohio State. You know, there's a lack of explosiveness from their offense at times. Um, Same thing with Indiana, um, Texas A&M. Sometimes they may struggle, you know, stopping the run, whatever. They're nitpicking. These teams are, you know, look legit and have looked legit throughout the whole year. So I think those are one of those three teams are my favorite to win the Natty.
That's good numbers. I'm
Hmm.
more shocked that you discredit Texas Tech
Hmm.
in the way that their defense has been
Oh no,
similar.
no, 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 no. That's like yeah, like I think Oklahoma is probably my favorite defense. They're definitely
They're
second.
literally right
Second,
there.
Ohio State too. Like Ohio State, less so on the running end. Although they're good in that, I think that their DBs and their
There are
secondary.
five defenses.
Hmm.
And I think when if I go back and do the math and I go back, I think there's about six or seven teams who have a defense that's in the top 25 in this
Hmm.
playoff alone. That's the scary part.
Yeah,
And majority of it is within the top. And if I want to do it more detailed, I think five of them are in the top 15.
yeah, yeah. I'm a defensive guy too. I love good defenses. It's like fourth quarter. It's still 10-10, 7-3. Inject that into my vein. Not because of sloppy ball though. Like because of good defense. Like quarterbacks don't know where to go. They look confused. We're getting after the quarterback. We got sacks. We got all these things. Like
Oh yeah.
I'm
I'm
excited
a
to
I'm a
see
sucker
that
for I'm a
from
sucker for
multiple
great
teams.
defense.
Yeah.
Again, you said there's three teams that you consider national
Mhm.
chip national championship contending teams.
Yeah, and
I am
only because of the fact that I haven't seen weaknesses from them. I'm gonna give a disclaimer like you give a disclaimer because I don't see any
That's fine.
weaknesses from them
This
yet.
doesn't drop till
Because
Friday,
like
dude.
yeah,
Someone
because
when
you
this drops, someone will look at us and think we're morons when this drops, and then we'll get to next week when Tulane defeats Ole Miss. Called it. And
you're gonna stand on that hill, huh?
I
No, but it's just like
believe
you made the point. This is like the second season, and I think that's why I love the 12 team playoff format because I don't think anybody was taking Ohio State before they went out there on the field against Tennessee, coming off that loss to Michigan last year.
yeah.
But we saw that game and we was just like, oh, this is a different team. Then they continued it next week against Oregon. Still
It's all
turned
about
up.
momentum. It's
Yeah,
about momentum.
exactly. Yeah.
Georgia winning the SEC, Indiana winning the Big Ten, Texas Tech dominating BYU in the Big 12. Miami, although they didn't play in a conference championship game, those last three games all ended in blowouts for them. Those teams that have the momentum, Oregon, it does a drastic thing for you if you get hot at the right time. So
Hmm.
I see where you are, where you stand with your three. I think there's more than three. I think there's about six, seven. Uh,
Okay. Let's hear 'em.
for the kids there. That you could make a case for. And it's literally all because of, like you said, we either haven't seen much of a weakness from the first three that you've given. I'll put that out there.
Hmm.
Texas Tech looks freakishly good, but it does
Hmm.
come down to how explosive will that offense be. For the sake of the if we just play devil's advocate and move forward, Oregon would have to play Texas Tech, and I think the winner of that game is going to have a real chance of being a national championship because I think those are two pretty solid defenses you have to take into account. Same thing
Yeah.
with anyone who makes it to that next round. I think all those teams are valuable national championship contending teams. So
Hmm.
I'm with you. Everyone has a case here. So I
Hmm.
wouldn't take anything away from them.
I got you. So you're saying all those first four,
Oh yeah,
and
first
then
four:
who are your others?
Miami, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, and
Yeah, Ole Miss
Oregon.
is a yeah, Ole Miss is a sneaky good one. I think
It just
retaining
comes
their
down to their
offensive
defense.
coordinator, yeah, and their defensive coordinator is huge for them. Yeah, that's a good one too.
If their defense shows up the way we want them to, because it hasn't been great, it hasn't been lights out defense, but they have been able to get stops. So if that defense can get some good stops against Georgia, and again, saying in future tense of hypotheticals here, we've seen that matchup before. We know that offense can put up points. We're going to need your defense to stop Gunner Stockton. Like that's what you're banking on if you're Pete Golden and you're Ole Miss. I need my defensive line with Princely Umami Yellen to get those stops. So everything's a hypothetical. It's all a stroke of luck, but it's all about who's hot at the right times. And I think this benefits sometimes playing in those first round games can be beneficial while everyone else has almost had like a month off. You're sitting there. Well, now it's not a month. I remember the 14 playoff era or last year felt like it was such a long time before they played. But everyone gets about 3 weeks off. You can be prepped and ready to go because you now have faced your first adversity, jump into it and treat it like a week to week season instead of a 1-0.
Yeah, yeah. It's gonna be exciting, man. And like, yeah, this is a new season. We'll see what teams are made of, and maybe to your point, one of those small schools, one of those two small schools can, push one of these the big dogs, make it a close game. You know,
I believe. And to
Mm.
anybody else who
Yeah, I
doesn't
can
believe,
see.
I need you to believe because there's going to be changes in the college football playoff format at some point or another. If we all can believe, anything can change. AMAC, I don't want to hear this right now.
Hmm.
We are
Yeah, we
believers
could
over
go.
here.
Yeah,
In
we
this
could go with Meg.
bracketology over here, we
No,
believe in the
I'm
little birds.
I'm 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 signed to the college football format change. It's like every year, we're like, oh, the school that we thought could win a national championship didn't get in, so now we have to change the format. We got to expand. It's just like, no, just fix tiebreakers within conferences and we're good. Like,
And apparently ACC will make an announcement at some point that they're making changes to it where
yeah,
they could have.
you guys screwed
It's a
up.
whole thing. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
We're not going to touch on that. We're winding down here. Hey Mac, tell people where they can reach you on socials. What else you got going on? Because I know you're not a freakishly busy man, but you're a busy man. I know you're a
Yeah.
busy guy.
Yeah, you can find me on Anthony McBarnette on all socials, Ant Major, Ant underscore Major on Twitter. Um, and which you can find me on weekdays 8 to 11 on SEC This Morning, Sirius XM channel 372. And then also you can find me on the Team 980 Monday through Friday for Chris Russell's show from 1 to
Hey,
4, from 1 to 4. So, yeah,
hey
covering
Mac,
the Commanders and a little college football and national sports storylines. So,
I love it. I love it. Hey Mac, I want to thank you again. It's been
thank you for
fun.
having me, man. Yeah.
Maybe have you again for week 2. Maybe incorporate another guest. You guys let me know what you got, what you want to see. Do you want to see another guest? Do you want to see a 3-man weave here? Do you want to see a 3-man booth? What teams should we cover more extensively? Do you believe in the G5 like me? Be part of the Brockettology crew and believe in the G5. I'm your host, Darius Brockett. This was the Brockettology Breakdown, and I will see you guys at the next video. I am Darius Brockett. You guys can follow me at BrockettMedia across all platforms. And I will see you guys at the next video.
Vote for me, guys. I'm trying to be back next week.